Hello everyone, this is Professor Capko, and this is a short video to give you some ideas of what I'm looking for in my classes when I'm requiring you to submit an APA formatted paper. This video is not intended to be a comprehensive guide on APA or authoritative on APA in general. This is just to give you some ideas of what I'm looking for in my classes so that you can get the most points possible. And, uh, and I can do some additional videos with some more detail if you all would like those. But let's start out with this. This is an example paper. This one was submitted at a university, so it's a bit longer than the papers that are required in my classes, but it will give us a good example of what I'm looking for. All right, the first thing you're going to notice is that there is a cover page. So if it's an APA formatted paper, it requires a cover page. And I can show you the whole page, and you can see that the only things that are on the cover page are going to be the title of the paper, your name. You can put in what college it is that you're at. Go ahead and put that in there. The course, my name, and the date that you're submitting it. The additional thing that you're going to do is you can see there's a page number. The page numbers for an APA formatted paper go in the upper right hand corner of the paper. And yes, even the cover page has a page number, and it starts with 1. I've seen some of these submitted from some students that have a 0 here. It should start at 1. The prior edition, the 6th edition of APA, of the APA formatting required a running head across the top left-hand corner. That is not required in the 7th edition for student papers. If it's a professional paper, you do need to have that, but most of you all are submitting papers as students, so you will not need to include the running head. If you do want to do it, that's fine, and some of you have papers or templates that are already formatted for that, and that's fine. I would not count off for that, but it would have a running head, which would just have a portion of the title of the paper going across the top there, and that would be repeated on each of the pages. So those are the things that would be on the first page, nothing else. The other thing that you could put in an APA formatted paper would be an abstract. That would be on the next page. This paper here does not have an abstract, and for my courses, most of the papers are so short that I do not require an abstract. Again, you can put one if you want. An abstract is just a short summary of what the paper is about, but a lot of the papers for this course that you're in aren't going to be long enough to really require a summary, so you can omit the abstract. Check with whatever instructor, if it's another course, whether or not they require a summary or not, or an abstract or not. That could be up to each individual instructor. The other thing that this paper does not show that I would like to have for this would be a word count. So you could put the word count on the cover page, or you can put it on the first page. Word, when you're typing in Word, it will give you a word count so that you don't have to count them individually. Just go ahead and use the word count from Word, and you could put that there. So we go on to the next page. So your second page would have the page number at the top, and then you would have the title of the paper again here, and it would be centered and bolded. Then you would go with the body of the paper. A couple things to note. Everything is double spaced. Everything is double spaced, including the cover page. It's also double spaced here. So make sure you're double spacing it. Make sure your paragraphs, and you break the paper up into paragraphs. Each paragraph is indented. So start the paragraph with the first line indented. That's an easy way to see the transition from one paragraph to the next. And each paragraph should incorporate a complete thought, right? A complete area of thought. So you're going to have your paper broken up into paragraphs, so I don't want to have any papers that are just all one paragraph. Also, do not put any extra space between the paragraphs. Just regular double spacing, just continue on to the next paragraph. The other thing to notice, here's an example of some what are called in-text citations. Here's an example of one right here at the end. The in-text citation, as you can see here, goes in parentheses, and it would have the author's name and the year of the paper. If there's more than one paper or source that comes from that author and that year, you may have to put some more detail, but have any idea that doesn't come from your own head, that you did not invent, if it's a fact, figure, idea that came from somewhere else, or if it's a quote from somewhere else, you need to cite the source. Also notice that the citation is inside the sentence. So the period or whatever it is, if it's a question mark, whatever example here, comes after the citation. So it comes after it. So it's actually part of the sentence, and then you put the concluding period. So you would go on and write your paper. And again, this one is somewhat longer than anything that I'm going to be expecting from you. You can break it up into sections and have a subheading. Here's some examples of subheadings. The higher subheading would be centered and bold, and the subheadings would then be left justified, such as these. Again, subheadings are not required, but they're very helpful. So if you want to make your paper easier to read, and later on we're going to talk about persuasion, if you want your paper to be persuasive, it's a good idea to have those subheadings in there. And let's see if there's some other things here. Notice that there's no pictures, there's no highlighting, there's no fancy text. None of that should be in an APA paper. If you have charts or graphs or photos, something like that, that you want to incorporate it, those would go into a separate appendix that's attached at the end. But again, notice that there's on each page, there's a page number in the upper right-hand corner. And you would then continue down, and here is a section that is a long quote, and it tells you the page number that the quote comes from. And because this is a longer quote, it is actually indented on both sides. It's indented, so it would be set apart. If it's a shorter quote, you would just incorporate it inside quotation marks. You can see to the end of the paper, there's a conclusion. That is your signal that we're getting to the end. And then you're going to kind of wrap things up and summarize it with your final thoughts. And then at the end of your conclusion, you would then have perhaps some blank space, because then you're going to put your references on a totally separate page. Your references start on their own page. There would be a page number. Continuing on, references is what they're called in APA. They're not called works cited. They're not called bibliography. They're called references. You have that word centered and bolded in the top of your references page. And then all of your references, anything that you referred to in your in-text citations, or even if it's not an in-text citation, if it's something you referenced, you would then have it here using what's called a hanging indent. So the reference starts all the way to the left, and then all the rest of it is indented, what's called a hanging indent. Your references would be in alphabetical order. Now this paper, since it's longer, has quite a lot of references. Your papers likely would not. Yours might have 2 or 3, perhaps a little bit more than that. But that's to give you an idea what the references pages look like. And then that would be at the very end of your paper, unless there's some appendices to add to the end. The only thing that I would say is that if you can, have all of the entire paper in black ink. Now, I'm not going to be printing them out. I'm going to be grading them online, but don't change different color ink. This one actually printed out in blue because those are links. So don't worry about it if it shows up that way. But as for any of the body of the paper, please keep that all in black ink and do not highlight it. If you have details that you'd like to ask about or other things that you would like me to go over, go ahead and comment down below, and that way I can see that and I can respond to it and do a more detailed video. Perhaps you want to know how to do a hanging indent. I can do a video on that, for example, or how to write the references or anything else in this course. Go ahead and do that, and if you can, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and click the like and the um, bell notification. That way you'll know if I do put out some more videos. I'll put the announcement in the class, but also you get a notification of this. So keep your grade alive and subscribe. Until next time, this is Professor Capko. Thank you.